Hey yo bros and mofos, what the hell is going down now? With the release of Atlas being about 2 weeks away from Xbox Game Preview, I wanted to make some basic general guides for you guys. So, as some of you may know, I have been playing Atlas since the PC release. I think it was like December 20-something, 23rd maybe. And it's gone through its ups and downs. Now, it was early access because it's a huge game and there's a lot of balancing to do. Now, it kind of sucks for them that everybody pretty much review bombed Atlas. I'm going to stick with Atlas because I love it with all of my heart. So for everybody that bashes Atlas, I don't love you. But anyway, so for the release of this, now keep in mind I've got almost 2,000 hours in this game. So I have been there for its ups, I've been there for its downs. I've had fun, I've had like a blast playing this game. But in that, I've learned some pretty valuable insight. So with the release, like I said, being about 2 weeks away from Xbox Game Preview and an entire new wave of people about to join the pirate world of Atlas, I figured I'd check on the Gamepedia wiki or whatever and make sure that, see how they're doing, see if everything's really true and up to date, I guess, as far as the wiki goes. And it is not. It is like a lot of stuff on there seems like it was made by Chinamen that had like some kind of like translation into English on there. So some of it's really hard to understand, and a lot of it you can tell that it was written at the beginning of Atlas, like maybe even before it was released, because they based a lot of the stuff off of Ark, and it's kind of different from Ark. A lot of people say it's Ark reskinned. I get it. I get why you're saying that, but it's like a completely updated engine and everything. So it's like Ark 2, but for pirates. So anyway, yeah, a lot of the stuff on the wiki is wrong. So I wanted to cover some things. I want to make a little playlist for a guide. Sorry this is taking so long. This is my first video in the guide, so I wanted to just spit all that out. I'll try to get to it a little bit quicker in the next one. So anyway, today we are covering character stats. So we're talking, health, stamina, food, water. This is everything that you need to know about character stats. Now, I do like the way that the wiki has laid things out and structured their stuff, so I'm going to kind of follow the flow of that, but I won't be giving any false information, and I will try to offer the most insight that I can. So kind of like Ark, you do get XP as you progress through the game. Unlike Ark, you do not get XP from crafting, building, or resource gathering. That is a big thing. You do not get XP doing these things. Crafting and resource gathering was a big way to get XP in Ark, but in Atlas, the biggest way to get XP is treasure hunting and hunting. So that's killing animals and doing treasure maps. Those are like the best ways you can level up, guys. Yeah, so it's a lot different. Do keep an eye out. I will be putting together some sort of level. It'll be in the survival guides that I do, but it'll be kind of what you can expect to be doing in certain level brackets, I guess you can say. Now, there is something unique about Atlas that was not featured in Ark, and that is discovery zones and discovery points. So to increase your max level, which starts off at I think 50 or 51, you have to discover more areas. I'm not sure how that exactly works in Blackwood, which is like a single player only type of thing, but in the actual official servers, like the big ocean map with all the grids, you have to go to different grids, go to different islands, and each island has at least one discovery point. Some islands have up to 4 or more, especially some of the boss caves. Those have like a lot. But yeah, so the max level right off the bat, I think is, like I said, 50, 51, 52. And you discover these points. The more you discover, the more your max level goes up. And you also get discovery points for doing things like defeating the Kraken, defeating certain bosses, turning in different power stones and stuff like that. So just progress through the story, do those kind of things, and you will increase your max level. Now, with the max level being somewhere around 150, it is going to take you a long time to get there. It only gets harder as you progress. I think my max level in official is like 85 and my actual level is like 70. And yeah, like I said, I have 2,000 hours in the game, but they did do a wipe about halfway through that, so not all of those hours are into the same character, but you can expect around, like, I don't know, about 1,000 hours of actually knowing what you're doing to be around like level 80 or so. Unless you like really know what you're doing, you could really get up there, especially if you have a good team that's out on their boats, getting those discovery zones, increasing max levels and stuff like that. But yeah, anyway, it does get super grindy in the late game, and max level should be somewhere around 150-ish. Alright, we're going to go ahead and move on to health now. So if health falls below 30 HP, you will become injured. Most people just say, oh, I've got broken bones. If your bones are broken, you go really slow and you cannot jump. Health does regenerate passively as long as your food and water stats are not completely depleted. Now, for every time you level up in Atlas, you actually get 1 point to put in whichever character stat you would like, and if you decide to put one in health, you actually get 3.6 more points of health. So you start at 100, and say if I were to put my first level up into health, I would then have 103.6 to be technical. Now, there are a handful of things that can help you with regenerating health. The med kit probably being the best thing there is. Now, the med kit is kind of a late game thing, so you're not exactly going to be able to start off making med kits, but once you do work your way to it, it is totally useful to take that with you in land battles. If you're going into do Power Stone stuff, boss fights, med kits are pretty much a necessity. But there are a handful of other things too. Say you tame a cow, you can make milk. That gives a little buff to increase your health. And then there's also a treat called the Tara Nostri treat. It's kind of like a little cake. That does really good. Also, monkeys. Now, in all my time of raiding and stuff like that, my good buddy Clean tamed us some monkeys, and it changed everything. So we would always go raiding with our monkeys on our shoulders, and what they do is really cool. So one of the things being a health regeneration thing, they kind of have like a constant health regeneration if they're on you. Also, if you come into contact with another animal or an AI or another person even, the monkey will throw poop at it from your shoulder and slow it down, making it easier for you to deal with that animal or person. Now on to stamina. I think everybody knows pretty much how stamina works. Basically, if you sprint, if you're jumping, if you're swimming, if you're harvesting, if you're punching with melee, you're using your stamina. The stamina does regenerate passively once you stop doing any of those things. Like if you're, I guess, walking or standing still. There are also some foods to help with stamina regeneration, but we'll touch on that in just a second. So I do want to talk about the amount of stamina you get per level up. So if I were to level up, my stamina, say, is 100, which is default, and I put my first point into stamina, it's going to go up 7 points. So it'll be 107 then. Now on to the things that do stamina regenerate. The best thing I can think of is called the Shrunken Head Stew. Now what we did with a Shrunken Head Stew that we found out was probably the most useful way of using it was to use it with our elephants when harvesting wood. So the elephants are big, slow, and they use a lot of stamina, especially when running from tree to tree, swinging at the trees. The stamina goes pretty quick, and you actually end up spending a lot of time standing around. So take a couple of Shrunken Head Stews, and what you do is once the elephant has used its full bar of stamina, feed it one of these Shrunken Head Stews, and I believe what it does is increase the stamina regeneration by about 60%. So that's about 60% less time standing around, basically. So yeah, Shrunken Head Stews for stamina regeneration, that's the way to go. Stamina will not regenerate, by the way, if your food or water is completely depleted. So yeah, make sure you take care of your food and water. Water actually drains as your stamina drains. So the more stamina, the more sprinting and running around, the more you're going to need to drink to keep up with your water. But we'll touch more on water after we talk about oxygen and food. So the way that oxygen actually worked in Ark was that it determined obviously how long you can stay underwater, as well as how fast you can swim in water. But in Atlas, that is not the case. Oxygen, food, and water are the 3 skills. I don't think there are any more. I think it's, let's see, food, oxygen, and water. Yeah, those are the only 3 skills in Atlas that you cannot actually put points into. You cannot level up your food and water or oxygen stats. Therefore, you cannot level up the quickness or the speed for swimming. There is a skill that you can unlock in the skill trees for faster swimming. There are actually a few of them. I think it goes all the way to advanced if you really want to swim fast. But yeah, you can't level up oxygen. So there's not really a whole lot to talk about here. Other than, you know, just watch yourself out there on the ocean. There are diving suits you can actually equip to your ship and dive down into the water for more oxygen. It does use a little bit of oil, not much at all. Really, it's not expensive to use the diving suits. You can only go so far. But yeah, the diving suits are the way to go if you're really looking for deep diving. Other than that, just watch your oxygen out there. Make sure you don't suffocate. Come up for air every now and then. And I don't think there's much else to... Oh, seagulls. Seagulls. If you have a seagull on you, you actually get a swim speed and oxygen buff. So check those out. Seagulls are worth taming if you do a lot of swimming. I do a lot of swimming. I mean, it's a pirate game in the ocean, so it's kind of hard to avoid swimming. But yeah, I don't know. I guess seagulls. Seagulls are cool. Get a seagull. Now on to food, which is obviously a measure of how well fed you are. Food drains over time and must be replenished by eating, of course. Yeah, so food does not only drain over time, it actually drains with the regeneration of stamina, just like water. So if you're running a lot, using a lot of stamina, you're gonna need to eat that much more. Now, if you're cold, it is going to drain even faster. So yeah, if you're cold and using a lot of stamina, you're gonna be eating a whole lot. So make sure, like if you're in the tundra or Arctic region or polar regions, you guys are, you know, have some fur armor on you and have plenty of food, because it's gonna get chilly on you. So yeah, once your food reaches 0, you'll begin to starve. Once you're starving, your torpidity will start rising slowly. I think once it gets to about like 70 or 75%, it's not gonna knock you out, your torpidity. It'll stop before it knocks you out, but once it reaches that 70%-ish mark, it's gonna start knocking points off your health. So this is really a big deal. I've seen this happens to me the most whenever I don't bring enough food with me while going inland on the Power Stone Islands or the Golden Age ruins to kite hydras and look for monsters to kite back to the boats, you know, because there's a lot of climb picking and gliding around, and basically you're using a lot of stamina out there. So you want to make sure to watch your stamina on those Golden Age ruins. That's like the peak of it. Also on the east side of the oceans map, you're gonna see a lot of islands with very high peaks and spires and kind of stuff like that you're gonna have to climb. So just watch out there. Make sure you bring enough food with you, because if you start starving while going up these cliffs, you know, that's really gonna do you in. Also, I want to talk about the cooking discipline. Now, cooking is not something that I personally ever got into yet as far as Atlas goes, because it's like a whole nother thing. I was always focused elsewhere. At one point, I was, you know, building a base for us, and then I turned into kind of started like doing this whole shipbuilding and pirate lifestyle, kind of more nomadic. So yeah, cooking is not something I ever did, but we did have company members that did cooking. So I saw what they were doing. I saw them with their crop plots and their preserving bags, and you know, just cooking all the time, farming and cooking. So yeah, you really want to make sure that somebody on your team is a cook, because it increases your quality of life tenfold. Because before we found a cook for our company, basically none of us were eating. We would just go until we died, or we would suicide if we're like our hunger is low, and just respawn, grab our stuff, and get back to what we were doing. So someone having a cook on your team is just it's amazing. Definitely have a cook. And the 2 foods that you're really gonna want to look for towards getting right off the bat are fish and chips and pork pies. Both of these, if you have both of these, it covers all 4 vitamins. So you only need these 2 foods to completely be fine on your vitamins. Now, if you guys want more information on vitamins, do keep an eye out, like I said, for the survival videos. I think I'm going to put out about 7 survival guides touching on different things. So I will be covering vitamins there a little bit more in depth than I just did. Now on to water, which is obviously a measure of how well hydrated you are. Water drains over time and must be replenished by drinking. Once your water reaches 0, you will become dehydrated, which will increase your torpidity and drain your health. Now, just like I said a while ago, as with food, the regeneration of stamina causes water to drain at a faster rate, as does being hot. So food drains faster when you're cold, water drains faster when you're hot. So make sure in the desert you bring plenty of water. Now water is, like I said a while ago, another skill that you cannot actually put points into to increase like you could in Ark. But there are more ways to drink water than there are in Ark. Now in Ark you could actually drink from the oceans. You cannot do that in Atlas. You need to find a fresh water source. You can dig from the ground. You can have water jars. You can have let's see, what else? What's another way to get water? There are a few different ways. I'm not going to touch on all of them because they're not fresh on top of my head right now, but that will be a thing that I cover in the survival guides I keep talking about. I will cover everything you need to know about water. Moving on to weight. I think most of this is going to be pretty self-explanatory. I will offer some insight. So obviously weight is a representation of your total carrying capacity. Now everything has a weight to it. So you know, your armor, your weapons, your tools, your ammo, all that stuff is going to be added weight. So I usually do put quite a bit of weight on my character. I think like 600 or 700 is probably a decent amount. Once your weight is like, I don't know, like 80-85%, you're actually going to become encumbered, which means you're going to start moving slower. Now once your weight is completely full, it is unlike Ark in that aspect. In Ark, if your weight is completely full, you cannot move, which is kind of frustrating. It's like thinking on Ark and not being able to move. You'd have to like throw items in front of you, walk a little ways, turn around, pick them up, and then turn back in front of you, throw them. And so yeah, that was like totally annoying. But in Atlas, what they did was if your weight is completely full, you can't pick any more up, but you can walk slowly. Actually, no, you can pick more up, but you walk slowly. So you never completely stop moving. No matter how much you have on you, no matter how much overweight you are, you can still walk. Even though it's really slowly, it will get you to where you're trying to go. So in raids, whenever you're clearing out people's smithy, and we'll talk more, I've got a lot of insight about raiding and best and quick ways to do it. So we're gonna get on that. That's like a whole nother page we're gonna get to. But so yeah, there is a passive that I wanted to mention while talking about weight, and this passive is for unlocking, I think it was like 25 or 40%. I really can't remember, of discovery points. So I think I got it at around level 70. My max level was like 70, 75 when I unlocked this passive. Basically, it increases your over encumbered walking speed by, I think it was like twice as much or something like that. So that was like super useful. So the biggest thing I can think about was hauling resources and hauling loot from raiding. So basically we would break into a base, find the smithy or find the resource chest, popcorn it all, then pick it all up at once, and then slow walk it somewhere hidden, so we can sort through it later. Now as far as tames go, say you're moving like a whole lot of resources or even resource gathering and don't want to run back and forth to the base as much, I would say just get a bear. If you're breeding, maybe you need like a weight bear, or just tame a lot. I don't know, just like bears. We usually had high level bears. Some of them would be better for weight, which would, we would use for resource gathering, hauling resources, maybe take on raids for moving stuff quicker. Some of them were high health and melee for actual fighting and stuff like that. But there are other animals that are bigger and slower that hold more weight, like say the elephant or the rhino. But the bear is pretty much like a universal thing. It's smaller, it's easier to get around. So yeah, if you need like extra weight, as far as tames go, I highly recommend a bear over anything else. moving on to movement speed. Now, movement speed is not actually a stat in Atlas. It is on the wiki as a stat, but I wanted to touch on it because it is not a stat. Unlike Arc, you cannot increase your movement speed, so which is actually great. I hated the fact that people could increase their movement speed in Melee and just do circles around you. It was entirely like that's troll at its finest. Like, trolling at its finest was high movement speed. So the fact that you can't mess with movement speed on here is awesome. But I wanted to touch on it because there are a few things you can do, obviously, as far as tames go, that will get you around faster. Now, ostriches, horses, lions, or tigers are really cool. I do recommend horses. They're kind of a pain to tame. The bears are cool. Like I said, it's kind of universal. But with the bears, they start at a slow speed as you start sprinting, and they get faster and faster as you're sprinting, reaching like the bear's max speed is the horse's speed at any point. So you can take off on a horse and immediately be as fast as the bear's top speed. So yeah, if you're really looking to get around quick, I'd say like a horse. If you really need something to back up, you need something fast and fierce, I would say like a tiger or a lion, because they get around, they have nice jumping abilities, and they cannot like obviously hold their own. The horses have like a kick, but other than that, they're obviously not a lion or a tiger. Now we're almost done with this guide. Keep in mind that I did waste about 5 or 6 minutes at the beginning, just kind of giving you guys the general rundown of what I'm doing here. But the only two stats we have left to talk about are intelligence and fortitude. Now, intelligence is really cool. That was something that was not in Arc. Intelligence affects how quickly and with what quality your character crafts items such as tools, weapons, and armor, even like structures and stuff. So basically it increases your crafting speed, and it also increases the crafting quality. So yeah, this is really important when we start talking about blueprints. So let's see. Let's say that we have a let's say we have a common blueprint for something, for a pistol that does 110% damage. It's a common blueprint. It's a little bit better than just crafting it out of a smithy common. It's still common, but since it's a blueprint, let's say it has 110% damage. Now, if we pump a little bit extra into our intelligence, then although the blueprint says 110% damage, and we actually craft that, we'll get a crafting bonus on that according to however much points we have in intelligence, and we might actually get 112, 113, 115% damage compared to the blueprint that was only 110% damage. So that's how intelligence works. Even if you craft something without using the blueprint, say we craft that same that same pistol out of a smithy with 100% damage, but we have 20 points in intelligence, it might come out to 110, 120%, whatever, percent damage, even though it's common and we made it out of a smithy. Because we have more intelligence, that's how that works. So what people do is find, basically whenever, okay, so let's talk late game here. Blueprints are a big deal in being better than other people. And you want to hunt these blueprints. There are different ways of getting blueprints. You get blueprints from different things. We'll talk about that in the survival guides later on. But so let's say we have a lot of high level. Let's say we have some really good mythical blueprints. But nobody in our company at the time is spec'd into intelligence. So with leveling, every time you level up, you actually get a respec. So you can completely respec all your points. So what people like to do, or what people usually do, what I've seen people do, is they'll kind of accumulate a good handful of blueprints and make sure they have all the materials ready, and then they'll respec, put every single one of their points into intelligence. Every single one of them. Also, you get a crow on your shoulder. Now the crows increase your intelligence. Now some people actually do breed crows to have higher level crows and stuff like that. So yeah, like, definitely crows are a good thing to have if you're going for late game, really good blueprints. Like I said, all blueprints matter, especially plank blueprints, sail blueprints, and stuff like that. So you want to get the highest possible crafting bonus by having the highest intelligence you can possibly get. So by being, let's say, a level 70, level 80, level 90 and up, if you respec and put every single one of your points into intelligence and you have a really high level crow on your shoulder, you're bound to have some really high level equipment being crafted. On to the very last skill I want to talk about here. It is Fortitude. Now, Fortitude is the measure of your resistance against weather and torpidity. So the higher the Fortitude, the higher your natural hypo and hyperthermal insulation values are. That is resistance against cold and heat. So the effects of hypothermia and hyperthermia are also lessened should you succumb to them. So your resistance against torpidity also is hand in hand with however high you have your Fortitude, your torpidity. So basically, higher Fortitude, the more stings you can take from like a scorpion or bites from a rattlesnake or a cobra or ants, bees, anything that do torpidity or tranquilizing. You can actually take more of those hits if you have a higher Fortitude. So if you're going to be living in the Arctic, it's really kind of a necessity to have a higher Fortitude. If like the polar regions are really hard to live in, but there are some foods and also some animals that help you with hypo and hyperthermia insulation. One of them, I think one of the best things you can have for the polar regions is the food called the spicy roll, which makes you a little bit hotter, obviously combating the cold, snow and stuff. Sitting on a wolf helps with cold. The wiki says sitting on an ostrich actually helps with some sort of insulation. I do know that the penguin, just like an arc, does help reduce your cold with an AoE. And the parrot, I do believe the parrot helps with reducing cold if you have a parrot on your shoulder. So yeah, keep an eye out for those animals. Now that is all about stats. That is, I think, everything that you guys need to know about every single one of the character stats. And I mean, that's pretty much all the insight I could think to add to that. So next we are getting into survival. We're going to be talking about everything you need to know about food. I'm going to cover like completely in depth, literally every single thing that you need to know about food. And then we're going to get into everything you need to know about water, everything you need to know about vitamins. We're going to touch on keeping warm and cooling down, hostile creatures, environmental hazards, and then we're going to get into skills and somewhat of character builds. I'm not going to get too in depth in character builds. Like when I say character builds, I think of Deltaya's Gaming from ESO. We're not getting that crazy into it, but I am going to offer some insight as far as different play styles and what you guys should be speccing into. So keep an eye out for those guides. Hopefully you guys enjoy Atlas just as much as I have, and I'll catch you guys on the flip-flop.